Hello, everyone. This is week 6 of the Hook'em Horns Hook'em Horns football show. It's crazy. We're almost halfway through the regular season. It's felt like a long but a short season at the same time. I know that's a weird thing to say, but it always goes by too fast. But we've had a lot happen already this season as well. So we have. Get back into it. I'm Andrew Miller, editor at hookemheadlines.com. We do have both Shane Black and Tarek LaCour, contributors at hookemheadlines.com back. It was either Shane or Tarek on with me for the last 2 weeks, so got the crew back together for this one. And what better week to do it than for Red River? I'm excited, man. I get that feeling every year for Red River. Me personally, between covering it for the beat and covering it for the site, I've been doing it now for about 7 years. So it's cool. Even though this one might not have as much on the it's the first unranked Red River since 1998. So since it, from that standpoint, doesn't feel like there's as much on the line nationally, it feels just as exciting. I don't know about y'all, but
Texas was still ranked after losing to TCU in 2020.
I think so.
Because Oklahoma came in with 2 losses that game, too. They'd lost to Kansas State and Iowa State back to back.
Yeah, I think Texas was, in the low 20s.
Yeah, I think they were 21.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, because they started the season, in the top 10. So I don't think they dropped all the way out after one loss and obviously the Tech game.
Tom Herman had circled that as a playoff year, but, well, we won't talk about that.
The year that they could have gone 3-7 or 10-0. Just
basically
flip of a coin every game. Well, I'll pass it to y'all. Obviously there's a ton that we could say this week, but just opening thoughts on last weekend's game. We'll spend a little bit of time recapping the West Virginia game, but I want to focus mostly on OU this week. So just any of the thoughts that y'all have.
So obviously, like you said, first unranked game in over 2 decades, but for me personally, that doesn't change the juice. It feels weird in this spot, Andrew. I know you said you've been on the beat for 7 years, and it feels weird as a Texas fan coming into this game as the team expected to win. And I don't really like it. It's a bit of an eerie feeling. It's a bit of an eerie feeling, if you're being honest. But I'm ready. I think whoever comes out and starts at quarterback, probably going to have them ready. And yeah, I really hope we can just kind of derail Brent Venables' season and really stick OU at 0-3 in the Big 12 Conference. There's really no shot to come back and make it to Dallas, because until you completely stomped Oklahoma out, I still have that feeling in the back of my head that they're going to rise from the Masters. So it's going to be a nerve-wracking Saturday, even if we take a 2 or 3 touchdown lead, knowing what happened last year. It doesn't really matter who is putting on that senior uniform. I'm still going to be a little on edge, but I'm really excited, and this is one of the best things to do for sure.
Shane, sorry, before anyone else says anything, I don't know if you're a little distant from the mic, but it's kind of.
Yeah, it was way over to my left before.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we're good.
Is it better?
Sound distant for a little while. But you're good.
Okay. All right, sweet.
Tark?
Well, my thoughts are basically identical to Shane's. I think that this is a game that I'm always going to be excited for, even if Texas hasn't won any games ahead of Red River. Red River's always special. It's a game that I've been in love with ever since I started following college football. It's the best rivalry in college football, and I hope to be there at Red River next year. But I will be throwing my annual Red River party where I smoke a brisket here at home. So coming into this game, this is the first time, maybe the first time in my time as a Texas fan, that I feel like, yes, Texas should absolutely win this game. There are just so many reasons because everything. It's one of those things where, okay, there's always a bit of a toss-up with OU because it's a rivalry game, because emotions are high, it's yada, yada, yada. But I can't ever recall where OU loses its starting quarterback, or it's certainly not having them anywhere near 100% if Gabriel does play. Running back down, not having really any good wide receivers, defense a hot mess. Basically, everything's falling apart. I mean, if you compare this to the last time that Texas played a 2-loss Oklahoma team coming in 2020, that team, they had lost, but you could see, okay, they're getting there. They're getting better. They're getting close. And that team went on to win the Big 12. This team, I sometimes watch them and think, like, this can't be the real Oklahoma. I mean, this is a parody. This is a joke. This is not a good Oklahoma team. You need to beat this team. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, God. Before we hopped on here, I was looking a lot at the I've heard this a lot this week of like references to the 2015 Texas OU game. There's similarities in the sense that Texas was blown out by TCU the week before and then was the massive underdog, came in and beat OU. I think that's kind of where the similarities end. I don't know. I was kind of looking back at it.
I don't even think that is that similar.
Yeah, I mean,
I think we knew what we knew before, and we're going to know what we know after. If Texas wins this game, we'll think they're a good, to potentially very good football team if they keep heading that way. We knew back in 2015 Texas was not a good football team, and nobody thought it after that game. They just thought you played a great game. And if OU wins this, we're still going to think they're not that good of a team, but Texas just finds a way to fumble it away again.
There was also a Texas team that lost to Cal. I know that was whatever happened with that game.
Poor Gerard Hurd.
Field goal post doink aside, Gerard Hurd aside. Yeah.
And that doink was won up by the doink with A&M versus Arkansas. That was
that one was, because that one was so that Arkansas kick was so like, I don't know. I'm not an Arkansas fan by any means, but I felt bad. Like, I've never seen a ball just hover like that and just fall to the ground the way it did. Anyway, yeah, like, I have so many like thoughts on this, and it's really hard to do a breakdown this week of like just the personnel for OU, like individually, because God knows I've tried to compile injury reports, but there's just like dozens. There's dozens of injuries that OU is dealing with this week, and it's on both sides of the ball, almost every position group. It might be every position group. If you were technically like even going to list the probables, maybe not the kicker and the punter. But outside of that, I don't know, man. I'll start with this because before we hop into OU, I'll kind of give some of my parting shots on West Virginia. I did I've started to try to do more of the post-game reaction to games on Saturday, but I did think that last weekend was nice. Tarek, I believe that was off camera, you had mentioned that we finally did what you need to do to run a Hudson Card offense. I've always thought that sort of offense was a kind of like a kind of a bare bones version of what you would see if Hudson Card was at a place like, I don't know, Tech. And so, I mean, it depends on the offensive coordinator, but if you're just building around his skill set.
More SMU probably.
Yeah, I guess with Brett. But yeah, it was nice to see, and it was nice to see the execution that you could have on the ground. I mean, by no means was like Bijan on fire in that game, but like, dude, man, he's getting it done. It's crazy. I don't think this is an unpopular opinion by any means, but like, he's better than he was last season, and he's not going to go down on the first contacts. And he's masking a lot of the issues that we have with the interior run blocking. And I don't know. I think the way that we were able to spread out that West Virginia defense too allowed us to keep some balance in the offense, allowed us to run the ball well. It was nice to see. It was encouraging to see too if it is the case where Hudson's starting this coming weekend. On the defensive side of the ball, I did like the effort a little bit better. I would have liked to see more than 2 sacks. I mean, like we matched up well with West Virginia. They still have a decent offensive line, but like, man, there was a play where like JT Daniels kind of almost outran Moro Ojomo, and it was on that rollout. I was like, come on, Moro, you can't. I don't know. I know Moro's a big guy, but like JT Daniels is very, very slow. I'd like to see us be able to contain a little bit better, but I was talking with Shane about a moment ago. I was watching a lot of film from last weekend, a lot on the interior pass rush, and there's a lot of good things, especially like Byron Murphy, yes, but I think Byron Murphy he's so slippery. He's so good with his hands. He's so quick at the point of attack too, that he's able to kind of slip and slide around within the inside and find different ways to get pressure up the middle and sometimes even wrap around. But I mean, Keandre Coburn and Tavondre Sweat are both just so overwhelming at times, especially when you're facing a bad interior offensive line, that like it would be nice to see if we could clean up, if we could contain a little bit better on the outside. Sorrell got 1 sack and then had the lamest celebration ever. But yeah, I mean, I'd like to see that a little bit more. Overall, though, I like the efforts from the defense, man. Run defense was really solid. I mean, all thoughts and prayers to C.J. Donaldson and his family, but I thought the run defense was really good. Pass defense was obviously pretty good throughout most of the game. 7 pass breakups, something like that. And so I think all that bodes well heading into next weekend. I'm just hoping we can see the same type of defensive performance. But like I said, I didn't have a whole lot of thoughts on that one, so I'll pass it over to one of y'all.
My main takeaway was, as much as people have been harping about PK in the offseason, you now have 4 out of 5 games where you've held your opponent to 20 or less points, which is the standard, so that was good to see. You maybe would have liked, and then the funny thing is, Texas has had a hard time just running out the clock in certain games, but West Virginia did that for them by taking such long drives. Like, they took like almost 10 minutes. I think I was watching a little bit with my wife, and I thought to myself, do they not realize that they've taken almost 10 minutes on this drive and they still haven't scored yet? Because you need to do this about 3 or 4 more times if we don't score again, which we did score again.
There was a lot of poor clock management in the Big 12 last weekend. Sorry to butt in, but I just wanted to say that in general. I definitely noticed that.
Yeah, so I thought that was good. I thought Hudson Card played a great game. It was great to see the return of Xavier Worthy, looking like Xavier Worthy. It's too bad it took 5 games for him to finally find his groove, but better late than never, I suppose. And the one thing I didn't like of Sark was him leaving Bijan in so late in the game to make sure he got over 100 yards. I know why he did it, because he'd like to get Bijan in the Heisman running, especially if Bijan has a good game this week. He'll up over 100 yards a game, multiple touchdowns. But overall, I was very impressed, and guess I'll have more thoughts on what to go forward with the Oklahoma game. But Shane, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those games, one of the few games every season you get that after the first quarter, I felt confident. I mean, even given this staff's struggles with the lead, I didn't think West Virginia, had the horses to match Texas in this one. Like you mentioned, Tark, it was nice to see Worthy finally get going, especially after the first drive where he kind of limped off a little bit. And it was like, oh no, is this going to be like a nagging injury going forward for the rest of the season? But obviously 3 total touchdowns was nice to see. And yeah, I mean, like you said about PK, I think we knew this coming into the season. It was going to be, if the defense struggles, it's going to be throw PK under the bus. The defense plays well. Oh, it's the Gary Patterson effect. I think that's a bit unfair to Kukowski for sure. But regardless, every level of this defense has stepped up from last year. And obviously not having any huge injuries really plays a big role in that, because we haven't really been tested depth-wise. But, the 15 to 18 guys who are playing significant snaps are getting it done. And I feel confident week in and week out especially after seeing what Alabama did with Jalen Milroe, a former Texas commit. They were just able to churn out yards against Arkansas. So, and they didn't even have Bryce Young. So the fact that Texas was able to play that well against an Alabama offense with the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, I think shouldn't be overlooked. And it's still important to kind of go back to that game at some point. But overall, great performance. One of the few that I think we're going to get this year that you feel pretty comfortable. You can start writing your game reports midway through the third quarter.
Never think that too early.
Yeah, right. That was a little bit of a jinx, probably, but I'll have to learn that later.
I've learned that about when we play Tech on the road. You never.
Yeah. You can't start framing a story. I hear you on that. I hear you, especially with this team. But something about it on Saturday, I just didn't think that. And I've been a JT Daniels fan, since this time of modern day, but it just didn't feel like West Virginia was going to be able to put up much of a battle, partly because of what Tarek was saying. They weren't playing with a ton of urgency. So, I don't know, but a good win in general.
I do want to give credit to the corners. Like, West Virginia's receiving core is solid. I mean, are they the best receiving core in the country? No, they're not. I mean, I don't even think they're really in the same tier as Texas is. But, like, we played worse receiving cores and done worse this season. So, I mean, and this team just plays better at home. Home, night game. That environment I felt like had an advantage for Texas. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of things working well. Okay, now I guess what we've all been wanting to talk about. That's, it's OU week. I'm excited. I don't want it to go by too fast, but at the same time, I really, really just want it to be like 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter and we're up by like 17, let's say.
Yeah, I think that's the key number because 16, 2 scores, still feeling nervous. 17, 3 scores, feeling a little bit better there.
Yeah, I think that's a safe but not too outlandish thing to say. Anyway,
now 17 might not be enough if your quarterback is Caleb Williams on the other side, but there will be no Caleb Williams. There may just be people whose last names we will literally be making fun of throughout the entire game. So.
Yeah, okay. So let's actually start on that subject. This is a Texas show, so I want to talk mostly about the Texas side of it. But I don't want to skim over OU's quarterback situation because that just has such a big impact on this game. So I want to get y'all's take. I'll give mine first. So my read on the situation, just from, again, kind of reading the tea leaves here, what reports we have gotten this week, there's about 3 or 4 in, regarding Ewers. The bad of it is that it keeps seeming like we got this early week momentum to him starting that weekend. Seems a lot better than it is. He starts having to ramp up his throwing motion in practice. He's feeling discomfort. We realize he's not as far along as we thought he was. I don't know if that's going to necessarily be the case this week, but it has for the last couple weeks. I still would lean toward him starting on Saturday, but I don't know how heavy that lean is. My personal opinion is just like Sark wants Ewers to play. Sark is going to open up the playbook with a lot of very smart plays that can really, really do a lot of damage to this questionable Oklahoma defense, especially in the passing game. I mean, I think if Ewers healthy, you got to start him. I mean, I don't think he's going to be more than 90%, but hey, 80 to 90% Ewers is probably the best thing for this offense at this point. I don't think Card is a bad option either. Especially
ask Austin Westlake what a 60% Ewers did to them. That's pretty good.
Yeah. I put it in my bold predictions this week that Ewers gets the start. I think some people need to bring the Ewers hype down to earth for the moment, in the sense, like, I get it's really exciting to have him back. I think people forget that he's going to throw some bad interceptions. Like, he's going to have good games, but I think he's going to throw some bad interceptions. He's gonna trust his arm too much, and then he's either on the run or trying to fit something into a tight window, and it doesn't matter if there's Anyway, I put in my bold predictions that I think he has 1 or 2 bad interceptions. I believe I said 2. It was a bold prediction. I can see 1 bad interception, but that he's gonna. I think if he's in the game, he's probably getting 3, 4, 5 touchdowns against this Oklahoma defense. I think you got to start him. I like from a scheme standpoint, covering him during his recruitment, the best fit is on paper is Nick Evers for OU to start this weekend. But he's also the least experienced. So I don't know who I wouldn't. My personal opinion, unless something is revolutionary in practice this week, I'm not going with Davis Bevel.
I was gonna say, it's interesting you mentioned. I was listening to a little bit from the OU side, and it seemed like it was a lot of talk of Gabriel probably isn't going to be in there. It's not official yet. Then it was obviously down to Bevel, who came in last week, and then obviously General Booty. But if you look at the depth chart, Nick Evers is a well-known name, especially in high school recruiting circles. I obviously probably didn't watch him as much as you did, but it's weird how he's not really getting any mention of a possible start in this game, whereas Oklahoma feels like they're playing with not really much to lose. Why not let the freshman go in and rip it? I know you don't want to hurt his confidence, but I don't know. I feel like you could give him the spark that will clearly, I don't think,
I will say this: it seems like there's a lot of influence from. And obviously so, but there's a lot of Dabo Swinney influence in what Brent Venables tries to do in terms of building a program culture. He's mentioned that in passing, and you have a lot of that old school family buy into what I'm doing vibe from Brent Venables, and that if there's anything that's true about Dabo Swinney, he's not a fan of starting the new true freshman. So I don't know how much of an impact that has here, but it's a fair point though. I really from within the OU building, you don't really hear much of anything about Evers.
I think starting Nick Evers, to quote my friend Justin Wells of Inside Texas, that would be waving the white flag in this game. You're basically, so you're saying, okay, these 2 other quarterbacks, one who has college experience, another who's both kind of played. You're going into this true freshman in the craziest environment in college football. It's going to be somewhat semi-rattling even to a guy like Quinn Ewers, who has played for a couple of years on this environment. And his team was actually playing pretty well. And they're basically looking to be a savior here. This is just not the game to be. Now, if you have choice, it was a choice. But I just think it doesn't seem like the way. If he wasn't, and the other thing to think about is, if he didn't win back the jog with the jog at the 3rd string spot, then the cop is telling you that he's not really ready.
That's a fair point. I just look at it through the lens of yes, I watched a little too much of that TCU game last weekend. I rewatched the complete thing, and maybe they get Bevel better in practice. Maybe General Booty isn't that bad. I don't know. I didn't see anything where it was like Javonte Barnes was the scoring drives OU did have late in that game was all just because of Javonte Barnes, I think. And so I don't know, but
and there you've already mentioned the key. My especially if Dylan Gabriel's not a go, and Shane, from what you've said, it sounds like he's probably not playing, right? Or did I misunderstand you?
Don't know yet.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I heard is that it's up in the air, but like everyone, they'd be surprised if he went.
Okay. So basically, that means that Oklahoma likely is going to depend on their run game. So if I'm PK, I'm going in to stop the run and then making them throw, knowing that I can make whoever it is very uncomfortable and do it very quickly. think that's the key.
Just to go back to what you mentioned about Justin Wells writing, I think that's an interesting opinion because I think that I just think the ceiling is so much higher for Evers that I wouldn't see it as waving the white flag. I would see it as kind of giving this team the highest ceiling and the best chance to win. I mean, Andrew mentioned it. Watching Bevel last week was underwhelming to say the least. Obviously, he has some college experience, but if that college experience, isn't that great, how much should we take that into account? But it's like I almost feel like if you shot out Bevel or even Jenny Booty, like that almost feels more like a white flag, play it safe type call. Steph Levy offense, and that's going to totally change up the scheme. He wants to get up and down the field. And if you're just going 3 and out and playing conservative, you're just completely anti what Levy is normally calling. So it'll be interesting for sure to see what they try out. But
I almost wonder if it would be like a few weeks ago when we were talking about, like, I know he was injured at the time, but like Charles Wright versus Malik Murphy.
I think
that
it
was
would
a
be
matter of not having any choice.
Yeah, right. That's why I was saying he wasn't. Yeah, I know he wasn't. Malik wasn't healthy at the time. Well, yeah.
Quite frankly, even if Gabriel was healthy, I don't think they have. Our quarterback situation is much better. Gabriel is a really good Group of 5 quarterback and a pretty average Power 5 one. He's a good athlete. He throws a nice deep ball, but even when I saw him play the other games he was playing in, nothing in that said like, oh man, I'm really, really nervous about that. Now the running, that gave me pause. But after that concussion, even if he plays, he's not going to be running like that because he knows he's going to get hit again. That's just kind of a given. So I think that Frank is actually, I would be more scared of him than I would of Gabriel at this point. Because I think Harris is a better thrower of the football and more consistent.
Well,
so
yeah,
they don't have any great option. So if you throw Evers out there, this is what you should do. Let's say that they go with Shane Black's idea. Okay, if you go with Evers, then you need to just tell the roster, okay, we're just going to do the rebuild now, and say Evers is the guy going forward unless he gets hurt. Not Evers is the guy until Gabriel gets back. That's just gonna cause more problems than it's gonna solve, I think.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think if I'm Venables, I trot out on Saturday the guy who I think gives the win, and he knows his team way better than we do. And from the outside looking in, I think he thinks that is Bevel. But again, from the outside looking in, if that's who gives them the best chance to win,
that's a very sad story. If so,
yeah, exactly. If that's who gives them the best chance to win, I think Texas should be feeling pretty confident.
Yeah, I guess I am looking at it from more of a schematic standpoint. Sorry, you make a fair point of like, I definitely am just looking at it from the lens of like, if this is the last game you, not necessarily, like if it was the last game you play this season, then.
Well, if it's the last game you play, you do things like we did last year, which is run a Wildcat the entire game, right? So you can do that, but the fact is you have 6 more games, and you're already starting to see. I mean, people are always saying Texas fans are spoiled, obnoxious, whatever, and well-deserved to a point. But, I mean, if you lose 3 straight in your opening season, people are already going to get worried. And the fact is, you still got to play Oklahoma State. You still have to play Baylor. You could be looking at a 6-6, maybe 5-7 season if you lose this game. So, if that's the case, then if you're going to play for, let's try who's the best to get into a bowl game. Okay, maybe you do Bevel or who. If you're asking the question, okay, this first season doesn't matter anyway, because really the seasons that really, and I wrote this for Hook'em Headlines a little while ago, and actually I reshared it in some, I got some new OU followers because of it. if you're playing for the future, which is your third and fourth season, the second when you get your guys, your culture, and it's really your team, then okay to start the Evers experiment now, and then knowing by your three. But
Yeah.
but none of these quarterbacks really gives you a good chance to win. Because with Evers, he has all the tools, but he hasn't really practiced and he has no game experience. And PK and Gary Patterson have been planning this game for months. If you play Bevel, he has experience, he has no arm, and he's not really that mobile.
No, he is not.
So that this is DeMarvion Overshawn's, okay, great. Now I get to do what Neville Gallimore did a couple of years ago and play myself into the second round based on this game. That's exactly what he's thinking. If it's General Booty, who knows? He may be a better athlete than Bevel, but there isn't a quarterback on this roster like there was in past years who can just take over a game or that has just the raw tools that just make you salivate. It's not there with because Riley took it with him. So to win this game, you're just going to have. It's going to be Texas making a lot of mistakes and you taking advantage more than quarterback winning the game. And sadly, this is the worst defense that OU has had in a while, and OU had some really bad defenses under Lincoln Riley. So that's it.
Yeah, their defense is not picking up on those multiple concepts yet. The weird thing about it is the guy playing that cheetah position, is it Deshaun Smith? Am I wrong on that? Okay. It seems like he has the best understanding of the defensive concepts so far, but he's also playing one of the most complex positions. It's kind of, I mean, it's been a mess for them the last 2 weekends. So I don't know. That is a fair point, though. I feel like we ended up getting so deep into that OU talk. Who are y'all starting for Texas this weekend?
Quinn Ewers.
Yes, as the leader of the Quinn Ewers hype train, I think we know where Tarek stands on this.
I'm the president of the fan club. I have a bias, but here's another cool thing. Quinn Ewers is from South Lake. What better place to make your return than literally coming home and bringing the golden hat home because you couldn't bring home the championship trophy to South Lake. So you got to get something. And Dallas,
I'm always of the mindset when it comes to Texas, when it comes to like any of these teams that I have somewhat of a rooting interest for, you trust the guys who are paid the millions of dollars to make the decision. Sark has come out and said he's going to start who he thinks is going to give him the best chance to win. That's Ewers at 85%, then so be it. But at this point in his tenure, I'm still going to trust Sark to make that call. So whoever comes, jogging out, taking the first snap for Texas, I'm going to feel confident regardless. With that said, obviously, I think we all know that Ewers gives this offense the higher ceiling. So if he is starting, there's just like a little extra. I think there'll be that small extra juice, not only inside the stadium, but with the Texas faithful throughout the country, because we saw in that quarter against Alabama that he really ratchets up this offense a little bit with the deep ball.
That's true. Yeah, there are a lot of advantages there. I mean, I think we're in unison that Quinn Ewers should be the starter this weekend if he is healthy enough to go.
But I say this as president of the fan club. If Quinn isn't ready, I totally expect to win even with Hudson Card. I think Hudson Card has really shown that he can be a very good quarterback at this level. Is he a game-changing quarterback? No. Is he the guy that Brent Venables? Think of it this way. Brent Venables is not going to be happy having to play either of these guys with his current defense. But if it's Quinn, it's going to be like, oh, man. It's like I have to watch this for 60 minutes. Or if it's Hudson Card, it's going to be, okay, Quinn, he might not do Quinn's throws, but this guy has a little Max Duggan in him. So if he starts running, he's like, well, we know where this is going pretty quickly. And I think that Sark is a smart guy. He doesn't like to run his quarterbacks, but if Hudson Card is the guy, he's going to see some run this game. I absolutely think so.
And I'm not saying this is a reason to start Hudson Card. I just said that I think we should start Quinn if he's healthy enough. But yes, OU's led up 2 straight games of 100-plus rushing yards to quarterbacks, I do believe. Like, Hudson Card is a capable enough runner. Listening to a lot of OU stuff this week, I'm really surprised. They sleep on Hudson Card's ability to run. It sounds like they don't know that he was running on an ankle sprain for the last, 2 or 3 weeks. Man, I covered him during the Elite 11 in the opening a few years ago. He can run, man. He's straight up. I think he's straight up faster than Sam was. I know Sam was more of a bulldozer, but Sam wasn't slow.
He was a very good wide receiver at Lake Travis alongside Garrett Wilson. People forget that.
Yeah, so I don't know. He might be. I don't know if he's as fast as Duggan straight up, but if he's fully healthy on that leg, I don't think he's that much slower. So I don't know, man. I think his ability to make some of those
I would say faster than Duggan, not as strong.
Yeah.
Duggan is a faster version of Sam Ellinger.
He really is. Bowling ball. Yeah, and I mean, Hudson Card probably still has a little bit of pain on that ankle, I would imagine. I've had a high ankle sprain. I don't have college trainers working on me when I had it, but yeah, I was out for that for about 6 to 8 weeks. I remember it. I'm amazed at what he's done from that perspective, but I agree. I mean, I think either one gives you the chance to win, just because thank God we got that depth at quarterback.
Yeah, I would say 2 thoughts. First, if Hudson does go, and kind of how you mentioned, Andrew, that it seems like I don't think Venables is gonna doubt his running ability, but the Oklahoma faithful certainly has in this lead up. But I think if Hudson goes, it's going to be the last game he starts this year, because I think Quinn should be ready by Iowa State. But that's obviously speculation. I want to see that Rojo to Picard pass out of the Wildcat that you've been mentioning, Andrew. It needs to come. He's left way too open. Tarek just mentioned he had a hell of a season as a receiver for Lake Travis. We know he can do it. And they're not going to be expecting it. All 22 eyes are going to be in the backfield. So if he is the starter, I assume we'll see a little Wildcat, and I would love to see a look to Hudson Card. And one final note, this is, like you said, you noted, Andrew, we think Quinn should be the guy if he's healthy. If he's not, how awesome would it be for Card to start this game and win this game as a lifelong Longhorn fan, and as someone who's probably going to get, this is going to be his last year on the 40. He's probably going to be a grad transfer at another university next season. So I think that would be an awesome kind of way to send out his last start. But obviously, get the win any way you can. But I think that would just be another cool storyline, at maybe 2:30 on Saturday if we're wearing, the golden hat.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, I obviously that would be great, and yeah, I mean, either way, I do think that will be his last start. I hopefully it is, at least, if that is the case, for the right reasons there. Yeah.
On state of the program, Eric Naleen seemed to lean that it was going to be Quinn Ewers, so I'll take that. It seems a bit more. Everyone's a bit more confident this week, so.
Yeah, I mean, to put it back on.
And I mean, if Quinn was available last week, it's probably like, okay, if you're just thinking about the soreness and things like that, there's a difference between pain and soreness. Like this week, he's feeling a little soreness. It's like, okay, that means you're actually getting better and it's healing. If you're pain, it's like you're still actually really hurt. So I think that goes into that. I think Quinn also would like to be redeemed after that Alabama knockout. He's like, okay, he took me out of one of the biggest games of the year. I need to bring home the golden hat and get this program really going in a way where we can be in Dallas in 7 weeks after that game.
And then he can sell more NFTs.
Right. It's you gotta love these NIL deals, man.
He's popping up on my Instagram feed. Yeah. No, y'all both make really good points. I've kind of been all over the place this week. I've been watching so much stuff. I feel like I've got some recency bias here that's not helping me out with an actual good prediction for the game. But let's kind of talk a little bit about the Let's kind of talk about more of just the macro level of this game. What are you thinking for the offense? What are you thinking for the defense?
So I think on the offensive side of the ball, I think we know Sark is going to come out and have a solid script. He's proven that in really every game we play. So it's going to be that all gas, no brakes mantra. Keep your foot on the pedal, no matter what the lead is. No matter time left in the game, run what you're going to run. Run as if the game is tied or you're only up a touchdown. Because the last thing, and I'm probably a bit of a pessimist at heart. I just keep seeing, something like 24-7 at halftime. Oklahoma goes down, scores a touchdown. Texas 3 and out. Oklahoma another touchdown. It's 24-21 before you blink. So I think it's important to, optimize every drive. I think that's going to start with the run game. Oklahoma's been gashed all year long on the ground. And we mentioned at the top of the show that a lot of the yards that Bijan and Roshan are picking up are because they're super talented running backs. A lot of them are after contact. They're getting contacted in the backfield, especially the inside and the interior line has done them no favors at all. I don't expect them, I don't think there's any reason to expect them to play much better this weekend. So I don't think that stops you from being able to run the ball, though. And I think it'll pay off down the line when Bijan breaks a couple big ones. It's that old saying, you gotta keep needling them until you finally get that big gash in the second half. So this offense really should be able to do whatever they want. And I hope that's the case on Friday.
Yeah, that's fair.
On offense, I think that we've learned that, as Shane was just talking about, the middle of the offensive line is not our friend yet. Our strength lies in our two very dominant offensive tackles. Both of them will be NFL draft picks, I believe, and Calvin Banks, I think, will be the first rounder. So in this game, you might want to do what you did a little bit last week, which is throw to set up the run, and throw it to multiple people. And I would think this would also be a game where you should use some tempo as well. So that's what I was looking for, and also use a lot of outside zone running. We started to use that a little bit more last week. Keep using that, and then once you get them going that way, then try to go up the middle a little bit. Or if you want to run up the middle, then use like Gunnar Helm as a H-back and like actually put his like a fullback and run with the blocker, kind of like you did towards the end zone area, if that's what you want to do. Because the one place that Oklahoma's defense is actually not bad. Billy Bowman is actually playing pretty well, but he's also hurt. Is Coe and a few of those other defensive tackles, they're actually doing okay. And so I could see them having a little bit of push against the interior of the offensive line. So that would be the place to go away from where they're good. Go to the edge where they're not as good. Go to the sidelines. Go downfield. But and especially if it's Quinn Ewers, push the ball downfield with Xavier Worthy, Jordan Whittington, Jay Hall, and Jatavian Sanders, who's becoming a star. I don't think anyone is going to be able to stay with Jatavian Sanders on this Oklahoma defense. On defense, need to do what you did last week, which is to keep being aggressive. If it's not Dylan Gabriel, and we don't see like lots of different types of pressure early and often, that's where I could see it being a problem, where maybe you get that odd Red River boost, where because you're just not getting that pressure and you're given time to throw, and maybe you get into a rhythm, you need to rattle and shake and destroy that quarterback's soul early and often and take them out of the game. So, but I think that they're going to do that. They did that last year. I mean, the plan worked so well that Rattler was benched. This year, maybe you'll have to bench 2 or 3 guys. I don't know. But you know that there's not going to be a Caleb Williams who's going to take over the game. So you need to really rattle the quarterback and affect them and keep bringing it for the entire game. That was something that was a big mistake last year, was you put in a new starter in Caleb Williams, and then PK dialed off the pressure. I didn't understand that. I was like, maybe if you would make him like work for it, maybe he would make a mistake, but he just got to play Hail Mary and Madden all day and get the ball down the field. So that's the key. Run outside, throw it deep, bring lots of pressure on defense from different angles, especially if Gabriel's not there, free the Marvin over Sean, just bring him, let him go wild. This is the game to do it.
Yeah, Overshown's got to be an X factor if Gabriel's not. I mean, even if he is, but like especially if he's not, Overshown needs to be all over the place. He's had some good Red River games. He was really good in the first half last year. Second half, the entire defense had its issues, but no, I agree with everything you're saying there. I will give you a little bit of pushback though on one thing, Tarek, that you said. I do agree partially that the defensive line's been playing well. The interior of their defensive line is a really weird thing right now, where their nose tackles are not really nose tackles. Like, they don't really have that one guy that's, like, I don't know. It's not like a lot of the nose or bigger defensive tackles that you've seen at OU in years past. Jeffrey Johnson is probably their best interior run defender, but even
Nothing at OU is like what you've seen in years past.
Well, they're not. That is true. But if you're looking at Oklahoma as a unit, like their interior, statistically, I don't think their interior defensive line is all that bad if you're just looking at like the basic PFF stuff. But if you're like kind of watching them on film, man, some of them are really getting pushed around. And they've been going 3 down fronts, or they went 3 down front last week because they were getting mauled against Kansas State when they were going 4 down. So I think part of that had to do with the dual threat quarterback element, but like I think if they go 4-man down on this, the outside zone is going to destroy them. You're committing that extra guy to the interior. Their edge guys are not able to contain in the absolute slightest. TCU's offensive tackles and blocking tight ends were having a field day on them. And so, yeah, man, the outside zone can really set the tone in this one. Anyway, Tarek, I'm not letting you go without a score prediction, if I didn't make that abundantly clear from the start. So I know you got to get going here. What do you got?
All right. Now I'm going to give you 2 score predictions. They'll be with Gabriel and without Gabriel.
Okay, that's fair.
Because that's just, even though Gabriel's not great, they're still a very different team with Gabriel. I think they're a very competent team at least. Okay, so let's say Gabriel plays. I think that it will be 24-49.
Wow. Okay.
So Texas is going to score a lot of points. I think it'll start off kind of like a shootout, and then Gabriel just start overthrowing people, and he's going to overthrow it into somebody named Marvin, Deshaun Jameson's hands, and then some of these things are going to come back to bite him. So this is the game. I think we'll get some turnovers either way. If it's one of the other guys, I think it's going to be like 49-17, and then we have another.
I guess I should read that.
We'll have another 20 point. They're not. I'm like I said. After what I saw at Alabama, and I know that PK and Gary Patterson have really been planning for this game. If you can stop those guys, because there's a bunch of first-round talent on that team. If you can do that there, I just don't see anything at Oklahoma that makes me think otherwise. And also, the thing that makes me very confident about this is everyone on this team remembers last year, even if they weren't playing in it, because everybody saw it. So I think they're going to come out hungry and they'll get it. Now, but I guess on another hand, I still think it'll be a multi-touchdown Texas win though this year. I just don't see Oklahoma having enough to really hang. There's no CD land. I mean, even Marvin Mims. It doesn't matter if you don't have a quarterback who's going to get him the ball consistently. So that's your best offensive weapon.
Well, and even when they do have Gabriel, they're giving him like 5 or 6 targets a game on average. I just don't get it. That is an entirely separate thing that I will mention later. But yeah, Wow, man.
Here's another thought before we close out here. So Xavier Worthy was recruiting Mims really hard to come to Texas. I'm pretty sure Mims probably thinks now, yeah, probably should have taken that offer.
He'd be fun in this offense, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, he would be.
Yeah.
I think he's got one more year, so I guess it's not over.
Was he technically in the transfer portal last off? I don't think he.
No, he never officially went in. He just thought about it.
That's right.
Close. He never went in.
Seemed like everyone
And
from
it only counts if you actually transfer. You can go in the portal and not transfer.
Right. Yeah, I didn't know if he tested the waters. I'm sure he looked around, but anyway.
What do you guys got? I got to hear this.
I'll give you mine. I got a few more things that I'm gonna say after you got to go, Tarek. I'll give you mine because I'm sticking close to. I published it on the site yesterday. I do it usually every Tuesday. Betting odds and prediction piece, but I'm going. You know what? I'm even gonna lower it a little bit. I'm gonna go 38-27. I know that seems like a lot for OU, but I think Barnes is gonna have a pretty good game. And I don't know, man. I just think that OU finds a way. I don't know if it's some dumb special teams thing or what, but it's Red River. They're going to find a way to score something.
Yeah. I'm going to go 31-21. I think it's going to be, Vegas has the number at 7 right now, and this game's always played closer than the number is. If it's a 3-4 touchdown game, by all means, I'd love that. But I feel like this Oklahoma team isn't as bad as what they showed last weekend. So I think it's going to be a good game, and the juice is always higher for this one. And I'd be hard pressed to see us kind of winning the ball game by 3 or 4 touchdowns. Granted, Tarek has the magic wand, so I'm hoping that comes true. But I think it's going to be a bit of a sweat until the final 10-15 minutes.
This is.
I definitely see where you're both coming from, but to me, another thought on this is if PK also lives for these veer and shoot air raid type offenses, so this is another one I think he'll be really prepared for. And I don't think any quarterback on this roster is as good as Spencer Rattler, and we kind of saw what happened with him. So I'm just not. Usually, this is the other thing. I said this on Twitter. This is the first time I can remember. Now we were favored to win since 2009. That was when I graduated from high school. But this is the first time I can remember where I thought Texas has the better quarterback situation in that time frame. So, ever since Colts left, Oklahoma's always had the better quarterback situation. We've had multiple first-round quarterbacks, and we've had a bunch of quarterbacks who are lucky to get. So now you've got, we have some real talent at the quarterback position thanks to Sark.
I thought Sam was good, not great.
He always played great in this game, though.
Yeah. You just always needed a little bit more from him, except for 2018. Anyway, last thing I'll leave you with here, Tarek, you gave us 31-21, low-scoring game.
So Venables' calling card is on the defensive side of the ball. I know Oklahoma has shown they have a ton of holes, and missing key players like Billy Bowman is going to hurt them. But I think just as well as Gary Patterson and PK have been preparing for the Oklahoma offense for months, I think Venables and guys behind the scenes there have been preparing for the Texas offense for months. And I think he's going to have his guys juiced and ready to go. And I think he is, if anything, he's a strong motivator, and that's almost half the battle in this game when it comes to, I think it's going to be, I think there are going to be some college football plays that won't determine the outcome, but that'll could put Texas in some tough spots, a muff punt here and there, or something like that. But
yeah, that's true. Like I said, Tarek, I'll leave you with this, because I think maybe this is a stat that's been broadcast a lot this week. I just haven't seen it. Texas actually won 4 Red Rivers in a row when both teams are unranked, and they have won 9 of the last 10. when both teams are unranked. So found that interesting.
So when both teams are bad, Texas is the least bad. I got that.
That last game, though, you're going back to like the mid-1900s. So
yeah, I was going to,
yeah, even the most recent one, you're going back to the 1900s. So, Tarek, you got anything else, or?
No, but I hope that next week we will be talking about having the Golden Hat back in Austin, and then kind of recap. Since we're passing the midway point of the season now, then with the half of the season behind us, we need to kind of talk about what's left ahead and how do you recalibrate your expectations given what we'll know, because I think we'll know a lot after this week, because it's not just Texas with Texas OU. Where's the real? Because here's something I've been thinking about. So I tweeted this out. If Sark wins, this isn't a signature win because this isn't a really good team, and signature wins against a good team.
Right.
So Oklahoma State is going to be Kansas. Could they just be undefeated when we go in there and they're like a top 5 team or something like that? Could happen. So I feel bad for Oklahoma, though. This way. If they lose to us this week, they play Kansas next week. That's and they might be a 6-0 team who just beat the TCU team that they destroyed them. So it's not a good look.
No, it's not. That's fair.
Anyways, welcome.
After next week, Tarek. All right. So Shane, there were a couple other things I did want to talk about before we jump off here. And I do like to touch on recruiting a little bit at the end because OU is technically the home team for recruiting purposes in this game. I guess they'll be wearing the home threads too. But first, I do want to I kind of want to get your thoughts on what you'd mentioned a little bit on what Texas can do schematically on offense. What would you like to see Texas do a little bit more on? You mentioned a little bit, I believe, but a little bit on defense.
Yeah, so Tarek was talking about sending pressure, and I'm all bought in on that. I think you want to manufacture pressure in this one. Our back end has held up extremely well against what you mentioned earlier, underrated wide receiving core for West Virginia. Tech has their fair share of athletes out wide that did hurt us, and obviously UTSA might have the best trio of receivers in the group of 5. So, our guys out wide, Ryan Watts has gotten beat a little bit, but Watts, Deshaun Jameson had an incredible pass breakup, Jade Barron, Jalen Gilbo. Those guys Anthony Cook, have been holding their own in the back end. So I'd like to see a lot of, maybe not a lot, but definitely some exotic blitz packages. It is crucial. We saw against Tech an ungodly amount of quarterback pressures and, only a handful of sacks. So I think it's important to bring the quarterback down when you get there. It should be a bit easier if it's not Gabriel back there, but yeah, I trust Jaron Thompson. I trust Ryan Watts somewhat. I think he has his flaws and gets beat a little bit, but if you can get in the backfield quick, Watts gives receivers a good jam on the outside, and he's solid the first 2.5 seconds off the ball. So if you can get back there quick, then that's not really an issue. Obviously, in any defense, the problem arises when you're sending 5 or 6 guys and the pressure isn't getting there. So, yeah, I'd like to see an exotic blitz package being shown this weekend for sure.
Yeah, I'd like to. I'm glad you mentioned that. I would like to see Texas get Overshown involved. Overshown specifically. I'd like to see them get involved a little bit more off the edge, and then I don't know, mix up some looks up the middle. It seems like most of the way they are using him is just delayed blitzes. Sometimes a little creative, but nothing too special. I wrote this though. He's starting to find his stride. I don't know if it's just like getting him back because he should have 2.5 sacks on the season. He has 1.5. Yeah.
Yeah, with that target.
Yep. And so, and who knows with how much pressure they were generating against Tech, if he was there in the first half and kind of got a rhythm there, his last 4 weeks could have been real impressive. He's, I believe it was 7 quarterback pressures, 1 hit, but I guess 3 if you count all of this, but 7 QB pressures, 1 additional hit, and then 1.5 sacks after he didn't have a single sack in technicality for the first 4 weeks of the season. So I would like to see him get involved a little bit more off the edge. We need someone coming off the edge that's going to be able to clean up these, or that's going to be able to contain a little bit better. I mentioned it earlier. We're getting a lot of pressure from the interior. We're not able to clean it up on the edge. I don't know if I mentioned this on or off camera, but watching Moro Jomo having to chase JT Daniels down to the sidelines because we got no one coming around to clean that up.
Yeah.
Gofu's not doing it. He overruns everything. He's not a good guy to be able to do it. Sorrell's starting to figure it out a little bit more. But I think people got to remember that Barron Sorrell was recruited. I mean, he's only a sophomore. He was recruited to be more of a developmental edge player, and he's clearly getting better, but he still clearly has a long way to go until he kind of reaches that full potential. So, kind of got to be overshown. I mentioned it too. This is more of a pipe dream, I think. I'll be honest. I think eventually you got to start trying out a few different blitz looks. If we're facing one of their backup quarterbacks this weekend, I don't know. One guy that I wouldn't mind seeing on the field for clear passing downs is Ethan Burke.
Okay. Yeah.
I mentioned it. He's got 4 or 5 quarterback pressures and just like 19 or 20 pass rush snaps. I mean, just from a productivity perspective, he's been playing well. Again, we're just not getting there with the Gofu. But
yeah,
I don't know. You're taking a risk there too with the unknowns with Burke and run defense if they end up audibling out of something. So, but yeah.
Am I looking at this right? That Oklahoma has only allowed 2 sacks this season? Does that sound right? For PFF, I'm seeing 2 sacks. If I'm on the right, tab. I'm a first year user of PFF, but
I don't.
I mean, you always hear. I guess in more of a macro level, you always hear about how strong the Sooner offensive line is. From someone like you who's watched, some of the tape, is this group that should they be heralded in that way, or how do they look up front on offense?
Well, a lot of it depends on how healthy they are on the offensive line. I think Wanya Morris is out. I can't say I think. My guess would be that Wanya Morris is out.
Okay.
But yeah, I have Oklahoma allowing 12.
Okay, I mean that would make more sense.
I have I have Oregon allowing 1 on the season, but that's just because Bo Nix scrambles every play.
Yeah, I don't know why this says. I'll send you a picture later. I might not be looking in the exact right spot here, but that makes a lot more sense.
So here's my thing with the pass rush and OU's offensive line. So I don't quite know what to make of TCU's D line yet. They're kind of young, at least on the interior, and from what I've seen, they play a lot of 3 down. My understanding of TCU's defense is that their best spot is linebacker. So I don't know how much I can really take away from that game. But in terms of pass pro, OU is they've been pretty solid. But that was mostly because of the non-conference.
Yeah.
Dylan Gabriel has been taking a decent amount of sacks this season. Part of that is just because they run so many plays. But, yeah, I mean, if Wanya Morris is out, he's their best run blocker, first and foremost. But he's also probably one of their 3 best pass blockers. I don't know Anton Harrison, I don't know what his injury situation's looking like, but I believe he's the other starting offensive tackle. And he was one of what seemed like every player for OU that was banged up last weekend, but he was banged up too. I don't 100% know his status. I think he will play, but I think he's going to be banged up. Andrew Rame is banged up. He hyperextended his knee. I swear that one or two of their other offensive linemen are banged up too in some form or fashion, but those are the three that I would watch. There's some uncertainty for their offensive line, and I think we need to take advantage of that. Like, I want us to see come home with 3 or 4 sacks if we're playing Bevel. At least a lot of throwaways.
Yeah, I think the pressure also will lead to turnovers, which we haven't done a great job of forcing this year. So,
you know that every single one of our turnovers this season are pick sixes?
What is that, 2?
Yeah, we only had 2 on the season, I think.
No fumble? Yeah, good. Yeah, that is. I'd rather have 4 regular interceptions than 2 pick sixes. I'll tell you that. Maybe not actually, but I'd trade those pick sixes for a couple more interceptions. Is what I'm getting at.
I would take the Barron pick 6, but anyway, yeah, without looking too much in hindsight there. Yeah, I mean, like, some of that is luck, because I think we forced 3 fumbles this season and haven't fallen on a single one of them. A lot of that was in the Tech game. Oh, yeah, no, 3 or 4, because Jalen Ford knocked one out against UTSA and didn't fall on it. It was right in his hands, and so we've missed quite a few of those. I mean, part of that's just bad luck, I think. Like, fumbles are eventually going to bounce your way if you're forcing them. If you're getting hats on the football, we're knocking it out. Some of it, you just got to be willing. I mean, I was watching Spencer Sanders last weekend against Baylor. He ended up saving a fumble that could have flipped that game around completely because he just dove in head first for it, to the exact opposite that Cam Newton did in the Super Bowl a while ago. And part of that, I guess, is just effort. But I mean, these guys are playing with effort in the linebacking core. So I don't know. We need more turnovers, though. That's just
definitely.
We're going to need that, especially against Iowa State and Oklahoma State. But yeah, I mean, we'll talk about that more in the next few weeks. Okay. Yeah, I guess my last thoughts on the defense are for one, you mentioned Ryan Watts. I actually wanted to respond to that in the sense that I like Watts' matchup again this weekend. Just because Theo Weiss has a lot of talent. I believe he's their starting boundary receiver, but I mean, another 6'3" guy. Watts has matched up really well against taller boundary receivers. That's what they brought him in to do, and he's been doing it well. So, I mean, outside of a little bit of that UTSA game. I mean, Jameson knows what he's matching up against in Mims. So, I need to dig more into what that matchup's done in the past.
I was thinking about putting a piece together. I heard it was Longhorn Blitz. Rod Babers was bringing up some interesting numbers that I kind of wanted to dive into deeper. But it was Mims against the zone compared to against man-to-man coverage. And apparently he just eats up zone coverage and is a shell of himself in man-to-man. So it'd be interesting to see reps between Jameson and Mims, because I think if those numbers are true, which I find Babers to be one of, obviously, talking defensive backs, one of the better guys to listen to. I assume we'd see a lot of, even in the slot, a lot of man coverage from, if it's Jameson or Gulby or whoever. Jalen Gilbo. I say Gulby. Jalen Gilbo. But so I think that'll be interesting to note, because he's obviously the one guy that can really hurt you with a 200-yard day.
Yeah, I mean, we got gashed last year in the deep passing game in the second half, but, well, kind of. I don't know. There's just a lot of crazy plays, but I think that there might have only actually been 1 or 2 deep passes. Anyway, yeah, that's interesting, though. I wonder how much of that has to do with actually Dylan Gabriel's ability to pick apart a zone versus man defense. It seems like when he gets a little off schedule, zone defense, you can get the ball out a little faster sometimes.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. Dylan Gabriel actually hasn't been very good under pressure this season, so that's interesting. I wonder how much that has to do with that. But yeah, interesting you mentioned that for sure. Okay, I'm going to give some of my final thoughts on OU, a little bit on recruiting, then we can we can wrap it up because I guess we've already given our score predictions here. The two last things I had on the game, one is I want to see how Sark is able to spread the field on OU. I mentioned this in passing so far, but I really don't think the OU defense matches up well with Texas in the sense of spacing on the field. OU, Brent Venables' defenses are designed to contest in space. They're not doing a good job of it this season, to say the very least.
Yeah.
They're I don't know if you saw the blown coverage last weekend. I don't know if that was Tay Barber on that deep score.
Yeah, I think it was Barber.
I don't know. I don't remember which OU DB that was, but it was bad. Yeah, and then just in the middle of the play, was running with the TCU wideout, and then just all of a sudden decides after not even one pump fake, a glance from Max Duggan, bites and then goes to the running back, and then just gets nailed over the top. I think that Sark knows that they're doing that sort of stuff, and I think he saw what TCU was also doing in the screen game and how they were dominating at the line of scrimmage. The first play of last year? The first offensive play was the 75-yard touchdown on the screen pass to Worthy?
Yep.
I don't know why you wouldn't open the game with something like that again.
Yeah, 100%.
But that's my first thing is OU is not playing well when they're spread out. TCU took a lot of advantage of that. And so, I think I wrote an article about this when I was saying Bijan could have a field day because I was watching Emery DeMarcado get to the outside and just run past OU's linebackers, edge players, and some of their safeties like they were children. And, not to be that harsh on them, there were just some bad angles that they took last weekend. And Emery DeMarcado is not Bijan Robinson. I don't even think he's Roschon Johnson. He's not. So
we know a lot about bad defensive angles and poor tackling.
I mentioned that because I said Texas fans know that because of Obi.
Yeah.
Hey, those were the guys last season.
Yes, exactly. So
on Obi still this.
If that's one of the downfalls of the Oklahoma defense, exploit that every single play because the offensive playmakers that this team has, Sanders, Worthy, Robinson, Whittington, these guys will make you miss. They take two people to bring them down. Get the ball in space. It doesn't matter who your quarterback is at that point. When the ball's coming out in half a second, it does not matter. Just get the ball to your playmakers in space. I've been saying this. I think we've all been saying this since the beginning of the season. When you have playmakers like this offense does, get the ball to them in space and let them do their work. Because over time, that's going to win out. Unless you're playing a defense, one of the few defenses like a Georgia or an Alabama, that getting the ball in space is going to work out for Texas 95% of the time.
Yeah, and the way that Sark, this is why I think it's such an advantageous matchup, is that literally the way that Sark's concepts layer to a T is exactly what I think works against OU, where TCU was holding the edge really well last weekend, and the biggest strength of our run blocking is holding the edge, I think, where you can get it outside with you get Kelvin Banks can at least hold the edge against some of these OU defensive ends and edge players. He's not the greatest run blocker so far. I think he'll get there. But Christian Jones, that's definitely the strength of his game. I think he's the best run blocker we have. And so
I agree 100%.
Start there. Simple outside zone. Get outside. Reggie Grimes taking a bunch of poor angles this season. And then you can run back inside too, because I don't think anything inside is You can double. This is the thing about their three-man front that still works to your advantage, is if they're playing a three-man front, yes, there's going to be more linebackers getting hats to the football inside, theoretically. You can double, like, Jeffrey Johnson. Isaiah Coe's been playing okay. Like, their interior run defense has been okay. The problem is, when they have two guys on the field, they don't have enough of a push in the interior because they don't have the size that you need to compete against a lot of these offensive lines. But when you just go one man, they have enough fast guys to at least get hats to the football, but they still don't have the size to disrupt enough. And so you can run up the middle, you can run to the outside. And then, yeah, you mentioned it, man, those crazy wheel screen plays that they're running to JT Sanders. I hope they continue doing it. Don't abandon JT Sanders again for a few games.
No. I mean, I probably think a perfect game script is obviously this isn't how a game script is run, but a lot of outside zone, a lot of finding Whittington and Sanders underneath, and taking your shot over the top to Worthy. You know, especially if Ewers is in the game, I think we're going to see even more than normal. You know, unless they're really sitting two safeties back there, I think we're going to see 5 to 7 shots over the top to number 8. And odds are, especially with Ewers at quarterback, a couple of those will connect. So.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to mention too that I'm looking for in this game, I haven't seen us attack the seams really at all this season, at least a whole lot.
Sorry to interrupt, but the one that sticks out is against UL Monroe when Quinn stepped up in the pocket and found Sanders up the right seam inside the 5. That's the one that sticks out to me. But other than that, I completely
was off
agree.
schedule too.
Yeah.
So no, I agree. Like, I mean, Ewers likes to work the sidelines because I think that's the most beneficial. Like, that's what he does. That's why his arm. I mean, that's the value of his arms to space the field that way. But no, I mean, OU can't really tackle in the middle of the field against these. And the way that Whittington and Sanders can work the middle of the field is just another dimension I think you can add, because we can state kind of the obvious of the Sark offense that, yeah, I mean, you should attack over the top. I think it just all goes back to highlight the plethora of options that Sark has to win this game and that Texas has to execute. So
yes.
I've done a lot of thoughts and studies and whatnot for this weekend, so I'll digress. I could talk forever on it. I don't know. Recruiting is kind of a muddy subject to talk about for Texas right now, at least compared to what we were seeing Sark do on the recruiting trail during the summer. But I wanted to give my thoughts here that, like, I think if Texas wins this game, for one, I think we're going to start seeing the 2024 class pick up some steam because I'm doing a piece on this. There's a lot of important 2024 visitors that are OU and Texas offers in attendance for OU for this game. And so you can build a lot of excitement through that because, man, OU doesn't have a lot of steam right now with those guys. So
let me ask you this, because I'm a little bit new to this, and I think some of the viewers, it'd be insightful for some of the viewers as well. OU being designated the home team in this game, what does that mean as far as recruiting and inviting recruits to the game?
So the home team gets a certain allotment of visitors. So I do want to start by this because anyone that looks into Texas content, you're still going to see like, oh, Arch Manning was thinking about visiting this game. Like there was some steam behind Will Randall visiting this game, especially before he tore it. Was it MCL or ACL?
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But yeah, you're probably still going to like some of the Dallas guys, especially some of the Metroplex guys. I think you're going to see them making the trips themselves, but they have to do that on their own dime. They're not even unofficial visitors for Texas. They're just there to see the game. Okay. But for OU, technically they can count as unofficial visitors, where it's like, I believe you can still have some this is where I have to look it up. I believe you can still have some contact with the coaches. Might be wrong on that, but I believe you can. And then you don't have to fund the trip completely yourself. There's still some odds and ends there where it's like it's not an official visit, obviously, because they're not going to campus. Yeah. But Yeah, it's more official than you would get from just attending the game yourself.
Okay, that makes sense.
But there is only so many tickets that they have, so it's a certain visitor list. But like Texas's last season for OU was like, I believe it ended up being like a couple, maybe a few dozen, and some had to end up doing it on their own dime, I think.
Okay.
But you'll have Colton Vasek there this weekend. Texas is going to try to chip away at that as long as they can.
Yeah.
And
OU needs him. They could take him out on the field on Saturday.
we need him.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair point too.
Well, because Colton Vasek's starting to become more important because as much as I like Tassili him and Darian Gillette, they're more of like they're not really true edge rushers. They're going to be playing. I mean, they might even be able to play a little bit of weak side back. I mean, Tassili is like 6'3", 6'4", 210. Like he's not the size of an edge rusher. Darian Gillette it is a similar build, a little bit faster. But anyway, I mean, Colton Vasek, yeah, the type of athlete we want. I think that Coach K has this idea, or PK has this idea of Burke on one side, Vasek on the other. That is one of the reasons why I like the idea of Burke having some sort of impact on the field this weekend. We're also not looking too hot with Braylon Shelby right now, where like I honestly expected him to waver a little bit more on USC at this point, but they're still going to keep pushing away at him. Also, Damon Wilson. I don't know how a 5-star edge rusher from Venice, Florida. I believe you said.
Shout out.
Kind of your area of the country. So
yeah.
But that started not looking great about a month ago. So anyway, I do want to say for like this weekend, there are some really key visitors, mostly for 2024. But like, we need to start picking up some momentum for 2023 for the rest of the fall too, because like wide receiver recruiting, lost Jonah Wilson last weekend. So
yeah,
this one, it's
go ahead.
It's different than the Armani Winfield situation last fall, where he decommits. It is never fun to cover a decommitment before or during a game.
Yeah, that kind of killed the whole vibe of Saturday. I mean, luckily we handled business, but that was not fun to see, especially because he was such a riser. We were talking about, like he was having a terrific high school season and still is.
Yeah, it's just two kind of friends of mine, but not anyone within Wilson's circle by any means. But I was just trying to get kind of a temperature of the situation, really just see if it wasn't just me being like, you can kind of make an educated guess at how firm he was. You just don't see Sark and Marion taking a high school game visit in season on Fridays all that much. I mean, He hadn't gotten any offers. He hadn't taken any visits. The only inkling of him looking elsewhere, really, was him wearing Houston gloves in the middle of a game. And I'll be honest, I didn't take that super seriously because Houston's kind of on the down. Or, I mean, I think they'll be fine, but, like, they're kind of trending down right now.
Yeah.
While Jonah Wilson is trending sky high. And that's – I kept looking for it and looking for it and looking for it of – is it Alabama? Is it Florida? Is it A&M? But he didn't even have offers from a lot of them. So,
yeah, it's weird. You always have to look at it when you have a decommitment. Is it us or is it them? Like was there something that happened with Texas that threw him off the scent, or did someone else come in and poach? Because I think that kind of matters, Obviously, it doesn't matter if he ends up not going to Texas. It doesn't matter. He doesn't go to Texas. But I think looking at the program from an introspective, that matters. If I worded that horribly, but if that makes sense.
It does, and I think I think that point you make almost leads to even more confusion of like, and this is the last thing I'll say on it is that like it seemed like he was a good fit, and like it seemed like the way that Texas was trending, at least in terms of like the ability to recruit a wide receiver, seemed like it was a good fit with Wilson. Like we need that type of talent on the outside.
Yeah.
But I would have understood it. This is the last thing I'll say. I would have understood it if we landed Jalen Hale. You can fit that outside receiver mold. But now it's like MHP is headed to either TCU or Cal at the moment. See how it ends up. That might just be him riding a high after that TCU win. But at this point, I mean, obviously we would like to flip DeAndre Moore, but at this point, I think the idea is that we go into the portal for outside wide receiver because we don't have any outside receivers on the board right now. We just don't. There's no senior scouting. I think the plan is to turn to the portal at this point.
It's a weird spot because when we were discussing kind of the receiver, the prospect of how this Texas receiver class could potentially shake up like a month ago, it was looking like this could be a historic. It was like, do we have room for MHP? Like, are we going to take that, fourth guy or whatever? And now Jalen Hale doesn't go our way. Jonah Wilson decommits, and it's not looking as pretty as it was, just 4 months ago. I would ask you if just this would be completely opinion-based, because I don't think there's any way to really get facts on this, but is there some sort, do you think that the way Sark runs his offense, where he finds his three guys that he goes to, like for example, we have Worthy and Whittington and JT catching the ball, and he just sticks with them, and there's no rotation. Would that have anything to do with this? I mean, all factors are at play, but it's interesting to note that.
I don't know how much I think that might have something to do with it, where it's like, I mean, I guess if you're looking at it from the perspective of, does Jonah Wilson want to be like the guy in an offense? And that's where I could see maybe something like him to Houston. I was thinking about this earlier. I'm like, what's the recruiting draw to Houston right now, and how does it match up with Texas? So maybe this helps answer that. But like, and I'll mention one more thing on it, but God, I don't know. I keep saying that. So you look at Houston right now, and I guess the guy's not really even an outside wide receiver, but like I guess they could have some sort of pitch right now. They developed Nathaniel Dell. He's a very good wide receiver, NFL talent, no doubt. But he's a different player, completely different profile than Jonah Wilson. The usage in that Dana Holgorsen offense, or at least that Dana Holgorsen mold, would be, again, completely different. I don't know what that would be, but like maybe you just look at it that way, where it's like he sees Nathaniel Dell as the guy, and then maybe Houston. I mean, if he commits to Houston, he's the guy, and so I could see that. The other thing is like, maybe there's something brewing that we just don't see right now. But
it's all speculation, which is unfortunate.
Because I do want to leave it at this, because I got a few other things I want to touch on recruiting wise, and then leave it there. For one, I say that Texas has no outside receivers on the board. That's just not the case, because maybe they take Wilson back in this class. He says he's still interested in Texas, at least from what I've heard, and then he doesn't really have any firm options right now. To counter that, I think we saw it from the Armani Winfield saga, also previous recruitments that Sark was involved in. When this sort of thing happens, you lose a commitment in this way, it does not. Sark values his wide receiver recruiting. He does not take this stuff lightly. I think you could fit the same sort of thing in with Brennan Marion.
Yeah.
So I don't even know if he wanted back in. If they might take him, but
Oh wow, I was wondering where you're going with that. That is very interesting to know. That they almost feel sort of burned in a way.
Yeah, I mean, and you'll probably hear that sentiment echoed. I mean, yeah, like that was the sort of thing that I took away from what I think it was Jason Sukamel was saying today. But also just kind of the vibe that I was getting was that he ended up kind of putting himself on an island with this. And so
Interesting.
maybe Marion just likes like Kyle Parker and DeAndre, and then Sark likes DeAndre more. Maybe those are their two guys. That's just the Kyle Parker thing is like if they wanted Kyle Parker, they could have had him like 6-8 months ago, probably. I don't know. He's having a big senior season though, so maybe not. It's just confusing right now. We'll see how things play out. Hopefully we get DeAndre Moore, and maybe they just cap with that and then go to the portal. We'll see.
Yeah.
But okay, so just general recruiting talk, and then portal needs. This is one thing I wanted to hit on quickly because I know this can be an entire other discussion. I wanted to give me one or two positions. I'll give mine really quick because I just gave a long spiel. One or two positions that you feel like are going to be the biggest need, either for recruiting for an immediate impact perspective or for portal, kind of same thing. I'm going to go edge, and I would say edge twice.
Yeah.
That's my spiel.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the obvious answer, and it's the best answer. That's clearly where the hole is right now. We obviously don't have to talk about receiver any more than we just did. I think it is interesting to note that when you look at the 22 class, you have Brennan Thompson. Obviously, Savion Red came pretty hot in fall camp. But I think those were the only two takes in the 22 class, and that's kind of low for the receiver position. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you got to make sure you get some guys. Like, if it's only two guys, make sure they can be, you're confident in those players in the 23 class. I think it'll be easier to target, to find receivers in the portal as well. So I don't think that it's a burning issue. I think that the receiver is one of the more plentiful positions that can come out of the portal. I don't know. On the offensive side of the ball, we're pretty solid. I think defense edge is correct, and then linebacker. You could always improve. We don't have a ton of depth there. So yeah, I kind of like your sentiment of edge, and I'm throwing linebacker there as well. But I think a lot of the holes need to be plugged on defense. As right now, offense, you could use a major playmaker here and there, especially when Worthy walks out the door in a year and a half. But yeah, for the most part, I feel like the offense is pretty solid when it comes to what we need.
Yeah, I mean, offensive line's going to be solid for a while. So
yeah,
mind you, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, overarching theme as we transition to the SEC, coaching staff has already made this clear, can never have too many bodies on the offensive and defensive lines. So, just keep hammering home there. It's a numbers thing, You're going to strike gold if you throw enough numbers at the problem. So I'm confident that they'll continue that.
Yeah, mind you, about the wide receiver position, they're like, yes, you need to build more from the ground up. But we brought in, if you include Jaleel Billingsley, 4 guys from the portal. Tariq Milton hasn't really played. Ajayi Hall had his situation. Jaleel Billingsley, who we will actually see back before too long, I believe, for the Oklahoma State game.
Yeah, right after Iowa State is. Oh, no. He'll be back for Iowa State.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, this is the last. Yeah. So he'll be back. And then obviously Isaiah Nayor, who hopefully is back at or near full health next season. Yeah, it's a fair point, though. Wide receiver is going to be a big unknown, especially if we lose, because I think we're going to lose Whittington. Not only I think, he made that
basically kind of said it, yeah.
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, we just got to hit on those edge guys. Like, I look at Jared Verse. I don't know. I haven't kept up with him as much in the last 3 weeks, but I know that we were going after him, and at least he made a big impact right away for Florida State, and that was one big guy we missed on. Yeah, 6.5 tackles for loss, 4 sacks. One of the ACC.
Drew Sanders would be fun in this defense.
Yeah, he would have been good too. I said it early on in the offseason. I felt like those were our 2 biggest misses. That was before O'Shawn Mathis picked, but also O'Shawn Mathis hasn't been very good.
No, it seems like he kind of maybe he got his money and is sitting on his laurels a bit. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I don't know how big of a miss that was. Anyway, okay, yeah, that's some good thoughts. I don't. Maybe they'll look at safety with Anthony Cook.
Yeah, because Cook is. And yeah, it's one of those things that like some of these positions where that are performing well this year. It's like that's the whole point of being a solid, putting together a solid staff is you want to miss the guys when they're gone, but you got to have replacements right away. It can't be Anthony Cook really stepped up this year. Now he's gone. We miss him. We weren't expecting this. Like, okay, Anthony Cook's having a good season. He's not going to be here in 23. So who's going to replace Anthony Cook on the defense? So obviously these are things that the staff has thought of, but that's why it's important to build that depth. Even when injuries don't happen, the depth is good for future years, which Texas, albeit knock on wood, besides the 2 key preseason injuries have stayed, and of course Quinn, have stayed relatively healthy this season. So
it's true. Yeah. Oh my God. I was just looking at the score. Are you watching the UCF game?
No, I didn't turn it on. What's the score?
41-13 over SMU.
Wow. That's I've been a John Rice Plumlee fan for a while. I like the 2-sport athlete guys, so good for him.
Yeah. Man, he's over 300 passing yards tonight. Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. Last thoughts. I've said it over and over again. I think everyone feels this way. I'm really excited for this game. I covered it just before. It's interesting. So apparently this is actually, like, from a secondary ticket marketplace perspective, this is the most expensive Red River game ever. Tickets are going for an average of a little over $500 on the secondary marketplace. Second most expensive game of the season. The press release or the email whatever the email report didn't give me what the highest selling game is.
Okay.
I figure Iron Bowl or the game. I don't know, something like that. But
I was going to say I thought you meant Texas, Alabama.
No.
This is nationally.
Yeah. But the crazy thing about that is, like, I mean, it's the highest selling Red River game. It's the first unranked Red River game since like 1998. And I actually would have thought it might have been the one in 2020 because, like,
yeah,
you only sold a quarter of the stadium. So, but I mean, you got TCU Kansas going on at the same time. Ironically enough, I will be in California for a wedding this Saturday.
Okay.
And so getting up out of Texas, going to California, ironically enough, again, going with a girlfriend and her parents. She's a TCU grad. And so we'll have some of us focused on the Texas game, others focused on the TCU game. But it's like, yeah, I mean, you got game day for TCU Kansas. At the same time, it would not surprise me in the slightest if this game this weekend between Texas and OU is still more impactful on the bigger picture for the Big 12.
Yeah. I think there's been way too much overreaction to the first 2 weeks of conference play, like an insane amount of overreaction. I don't really get it. I don't think Oklahoma is as bad as they've shown. Like, unless this is just me refusing to believe something that I really haven't seen in my lifetime. You know,
Yeah.
Oklahoma be bad, so that could be part of it. But man, I don't see it, and I don't think Iowa State's any good. Kansas didn't put up a point in the last 35 minutes of that game. So just if we're talking Big 12 as a whole, last week, which is good on their defense. You know, they held off Iowa State, but I don't know. I think there's way too much overreaction too early. And I mean, that's what happens. People love to overreact, but yeah, I still feel. I think there's a good chance that Texas and Oklahoma both finish the season, 8 or 9 wins.
I think it's hard to see that for OU at this point, but maybe.
Yeah. I'm of the. I know it's different coaching staff, but I'm just of the mindset. I'm not going to predict their fall off before it happens. I'm not going to be the one that says, I really hope Tark's right, but I'm not going to be the one to say Texas is going to win by 4 touchdowns and then have people rewind the tape when Oklahoma wins by 10. That's tough because I think there's a chance that it can happen.
No, I think more realistically that something crazy happens because it's that sort of game, and that but Texas still has enough of an advantage to still win, not by a lot, but by double digits.
Yeah. I think that's probably the script. Texas has a lot of different ways they can win this game. Oklahoma, has 1 or 2 paths to victory. So, I think Texas should win, but you just never know with this game.
That's true.
Never know.
I guess the point I was trying to get at with what I was saying earlier is just the magnitude of this game still. It's really, you kind of get the raw feeling for it this week. So you got all the OU fans kind of putting all the crap aside that they're dealing with right now and just having to just get up for this game. And you got Texas fans that are enjoying this different perspective that you have on this game now. And it still brings out a lot of the raw excitement that you get for Red River because you realize that how great this game can still be. And so, yeah, I mean, but also I have to get up at 7 a.m. for a 9 a.m. kick this weekend.
Oh yeah, that's true. I spent my college years in Mountain Time, so we had 10 a.m. kicks, but 9 a.m. is a little odd to say the least.
It'll be weird, but all right, I don't have much else to say. I think that I'm excited for Saturday, but also I'm soaking it up right now. I'm just enjoying the process of the week. And, unfortunately we have football tonight because of the hurricane and, I'm happy that you were fine through everything and that I got family back on the East Coast and I'm from the East Coast. So, I'm happy that no one that I know or family is hurt. So that is good. But yeah, I'm enjoying the process. We got some exciting games the next few days, and obviously we will on Saturday. I'm hoping on Saturday that I'm doing a good video after the game, and that we're going to have a more positive one before Iowa State next week. But anyway, that's pretty much all I got. Unless you got anything else.
I would say Texas fans, that like to spend their time on Twitter, don't get caught up in the Oklahoma fans saying, "Oh, you guys are gonna crush us. This is gonna be a blowout." Don't get caught up in, them downplaying this game because, like Andrew said, the magnitude is still there. Both teams, Venables in his first Cotton Bowl is gonna have his guys ready. And it's never a good feeling when it's you go into a game expecting to win, especially one like this, that's when you just get absolutely crushed. So I would say temper the be excited and be optimistic, but temper the expectations a little bit, just because it's that much worse when you're expecting some greatness to happen and it goes the other way. But that could just be my own way to morally hedge. I've gotten pretty good at it over time because far too often, we've been let down. So that's just kind of how I deal with this week, especially.
Yeah, set low expectations, overachieve.
Yeah.
There we go.
It's just one strategy.
Anyway, okay. Well, thank y'all for joining us. If any of y'all stuck with us here to the very end, appreciate it. Said we'll be back for a couple videos here in the next week or so. But I mean, hopefully we're in for a good weekend. Give them a hook 'em before we go.
Okay.
Thank y'all.